Things we don't know about sumo wrestlers. Sumo wrestlers haven't always been fat. It was, in fact, only quite recently in sumo history that the wrestlers established the chubbiness for which they are now renowned. In professional sumo, as there are no weight classes, any wrestler simply just needs to get as high as humanly possible so that he can use his weight in the arena. The current picture of the whale-like sumo wrestler only originated not until far into the 20th century, with earlier wrestlers usually even more wiry and muscular. The last night of a sumo tournament is called the pleasure of 1,000 autumns. This very romantic epithet recalls the words of playwright Zimi Motokiyo of the 14th–15th century, and is intended to express the enthusiasm of the deciding bouts and the victor's celebration, who receives all sorts of elaborate awards for his performance. And, of course, a fat wad of currency. Sumo wrestlers aren't allowed to drive cars. It sounds ridiculous, but in truth this is real. The Sumo Association prevented wrestlers from using their own vehicles following a major car crash involving a sumo wrestler. Just because, we suppose, they should. They're not allowed to behave how they like. Sumo wrestlers are required to monitor their demeanor and personality in public, in addition to the rigid regimen controlling their training schedule. Laws delineate that wrestlers must be self-effacing and quietly spoken while out and about, and they should refrain from expressing pleasure in winning or sadness in losing at tournaments. No amateur theater or gloating self-congratulatory here, and very correct too. Women can't be sumo wrestlers. It's a sad fact that men's sports are almost certainly more common, except maybe beach volleyball, than women's sports, but there are not many sports that women are currently excluded from competing in. Sumo is one of them, though. The Sumo Association does not even allow women, as it is considered a breach of the ring's purity, to join the sumo ring. When there was a female governor of Osaka, Fujiota, governor from 2000 to 2008, this created a bit of a concern. At the conclusion of the game, the governor usually offers the governor's reward in the ring, although this is clearly a little tricky because the governor is barred from the ring. This decision did not inspire Oto all that much, and she repeatedly challenged the Sumo Association to allow her to serve her traditional position as governor. She was turned down repeatedly before she actually walked out of the office. It was not always the case that sumo was so aggressive to women, however, and there was a form of female sumo widely practiced in some areas of Japan as early as the 18th century. This was just a form of amusement much of the time, but female sumo wrestlers played a serious role in Shinto ceremonies in some regions of Japan. It is forbidden today to take place in anything but an amateur setting. Sumo referees live on borrowed time. As fascinating as the wrestlers, the sumo referees, or gyoji, are like wrestlers. At a young age, about 16, they enter the world of sumo and remain in their career until they retire. The traditional attire they wear in the ring is strictly classified according to rank, and they receive honorary names with which they become recognized as they rise up the ranks. The name Kimura Shonosuke is given to the highest ranking gyoji, the equivalent of yokozuna for wrestlers. Unlike the yokozuna rank, only one person can hold the gyoji rank at any one time. Quite surprisingly, perhaps, the gyoji also bears a sword, or tanto, about 6 to 12 inches in length. The meaning of the sword is to illustrate that the gyoji knows the gravity of the choices he needs to make, and if he makes a wrong decision, he is prepared to commit seppuku, ritual taking your own life by disembowelment. Talk of stress. Fortunately, today, the gyoji typically only submits his resignation papers as a show of contrition instead. In most instances, the gesture is just that, the resignation of the erring gyoji is only occasionally acknowledged.